Welcome everybody to the Microsoft Excel MO-200 exam prep series. My name is Chintan Patel. I'm a Microsoft Office 365 2019 specialist expert instructor situated in Benoni, South Africa. So what we're going to do today, we're going to continue with our exam prep series, our series of video training where we are preparing you to take the Microsoft Excel MO-200 exam so you can ultimately achieve the Microsoft Excel Associate Excel 2019 certification. And what we did so far, what have we done so far? We've gone through a variety of features, command settings in Excel that we need to know for our exam. We are going according to a set of objectives. The objectives can be found on a website which I have been regularly posting in all my training sessions in my YouTube video, and it is something we should be navigating to. Throughout this lesson, I'll be making reference to it, informing ourselves what we should be knowing for this particular exam. So I'm following the set of objectives. If you go and search on the internet for the MO-200 exam objectives or skills outline, you will get the skills outline presented to you from the Microsoft website. And it's a very good idea to have a look at these skills so then we know what we should be studying. It's no point studying for the entire Excel program when we're not going to be tested on certain features. So in every lesson, or whenever I'm preparing anybody for any sort of Microsoft Office exam, we must be looking at the set of objectives, right? So then we know exactly what we should be focusing on. And it's quite accurate. You know, they pretty much ask everything in that set of objectives. Just last week, I completed the Microsoft Access 2019 exam. It was the only exam left for me in the Office 2019 365 suite. And it is a good idea that I go through the objectives so that I know what to expect. And I passed it. So it was a really good to actually get that out of the way. I have all the certifications now. And so what does that really mean in terms of if you're wanting to become a trainer, you can technically teach all those Office applications, right? It's a good idea to get yourself certified in something that you want to teach. Then the audience or the client actually knows they're getting credible training. They actually know that they're getting something that's much worthwhile. They can prove that I've been taught by a trainer who knows his stuff, and we are able to then take it forward and be able to utilize the skills in the workplace. And it looks good on your CV. It looks good that you have had formalized training through this particular trainer, sharing his or her knowledge with everybody. Just a little bit about myself. Again, I'm on a lot of social media channels. I've been posting regularly on LinkedIn. I post on Instagram too, Twitter sometimes. But you can get hold of me on any of these channels over here. I'm very much active on a platform called Telegram, where I use it for mostly direct or instant messaging. Okay, so, and then there's my YouTube channel. I post all these videos that I do on my YouTube channel, so then we are able to catch up if we have missed out the real-time or live trading. Right, so there's my access badge in the 2019 365 area. That's what you'll get when you achieve all of these certifications. Right, so again, we are making use of Microsoft Teams. Just familiarize yourself with the environment. Use the chat feature if you want to ask a question. You can raise your hand if you have the feature available. So if you have a question, or you can speak up if you want to ask something about this course or anything about the content that we go through. All right, so what we are going to go and do now is just finish off a little bit of what we did the last time. What did we do the last time? We covered the everything to do with formatting a worksheet or formatting a this environment. So we're optimizing it really for printing. So that meant whether it's resizing columns, resizing rows, trying to make sure your data fits in very well. We were really going through the optimal printing settings. So then I am able to print this particular worksheet if I ever need to go and do that. And we saw that with this Contoso inventory worksheet, many rows, a number of columns, all really spaced out. And we want to try and find the best way to actually get this done. Right. So we went through a variety of means to get the document looking great for printing. We went through various options of scaling. We went through options of margins. We wanted to also print the titles on every single sheet. So what that meant was we want to make sure that the document or this worksheet has a certain amount of rows appearing on every single page, because the reality is when I print this document, when I go File and Print, I want to ensure that the headings remain in place on the second page, the third page, the fourth page, etc. I don't want to be stitching up my document. I don't want to be putting two sheets of paper together, trying to figure out what the headings are actually in every single page of my worksheet or this document, this printed output. So we went and printed out titles also last week. We went through settings in the page layout tab. So we went through a couple of things in the printing settings and especially print titles. So we're just going to finish off a little bit of printing. There's just a couple of things we still need to look out for when we are busy with our printing settings. So I just want to open up our skills measured, or the set of objectives that we should always be looking at, right? And the one thing we're going to specifically do, just to finish off, is your customized headers and footers, right? So we're going to have a look at that. So what did I cover last week from the set of objectives? I looked at format worksheets and workbooks, looking at modifying the page setup, adjusting row height and column width. I then skipped the section of customizing options and views. We're going to do that today because I combined this particular section over here with the configure content for collaboration, specifically setting up the document for printing, right? And then we're going to complete the other two subtopics, look at customized options, and if we are able to, we can also jump into the next domain over here. Right, so that's what we are going to cover. So I'm still working inside my exercise file that we had earlier. Right, so these exercise files are shared on the YouTube channel or throughout my videos inside this live Teams area as well. So I'm just going to put the exercise files again. I've just made a short URL about that. So I'm just going to post that into the chat area, that we have our exercise files ready to download, right? It's the same ones from last week. And also another one is just our YouTube channel, another short link. So we don't have to really figure out what the YouTube channel link is. That's the link that I'll be posting all my YouTube videos on. Right, so we continue with the folder. So we are inside the folder Manage Worksheets and Workbooks. We're in the subfolder Format Worksheets and Workbooks plus Configure Content for Collaboration, and we're opening up the file Contoso Inventory. So last week we really optimized this particular worksheet for printing, and now what we're going to do, we are going to really discuss about headers and footers. So what is this header and footer? Why do we have to use header and footers? Why is it useful to actually use it? It is giving us extra information about the worksheet. So another word for extra information, what we usually call it, is metadata. So metadata is usually information about the information. So anything to describe what the worksheet is about, to whom is it addressed, any comments I can really put about the document, maybe versions of different version information, who is actually authoring it. So all of this extra information, which really is not always part of the content itself, maybe just about the worksheet itself. We want to really populate those inside the header and footer area, still related to printing. It's not really useful in an electronic environment because we don't really see the header and footer when we're working in this normal view here. But if I want to set up headers and footers for even things like page numbers, if you want to put the title of your worksheet at the bottom area. So where do the headers and footers go? They go into the margins of your printed worksheet. So how do we navigate, first of all, to the header and footer view? Well, we can do that in a couple of ways. First of all, the Insert tab is available to us. And in the Insert tab, if we go to the right-hand side, in the text group, I have the option for header and footer. I can insert header and footer. And what does the screen tip tell me? Screen tip is this useful information about a command. The content of the header and footer repeats at the top and bottom of each printed page. This is useful showcasing info such as file name, date, and time. So if I push header and footer, right, it goes into a very specific view for header and footer. What is this view actually called? It is called the page layout view. How do I know this is called page layout view? If I go to the bottom right-hand corner of my Excel window, next to the zoom controls, I have three views available. I have the normal view, the page layout view, and the page break preview view. So we're in page layout view right now. And what does this view allow us to do is to have a look at the worksheet as if it's going to be printed. Right? We don't really want to be working in this view if we're going to be primarily using this worksheet for electronic viewing, because it really splits up the document in various ways. So we don't really want to be working like this unless we're preparing this particular worksheet for printing. Right, so at the top area, this is actually just on the sides of the page. So it could be above, it could be on the left. We don't usually put anything on the left or the right, so it's usually the top or the bottom. We can put additional information about our worksheet. So the top portion is the header, the bottom portion is called the footer. Right, so what could we possibly put in the header? Well, when you inside your header area, you have a tab available called header and footer. Right, so this tab allows you to insert various items into the header and footer area. You can put in pictures, you can also put in other third-party content, but we want to try and keep it very simple, right? Because we don't want to really make it difficult for our printer to print out this information. It must be easy to read for everybody else too, and we keep it relevant as well. Right, so over here in the middle of my header here, I have three sections. I have the left, the middle, and the right. The middle currently has the name of the file. And what does this actually show us here? If I click inside my name of the file, or this particular area where I have this header, it shows me some sort of code or some sort of notation. It shows me the and symbol, square bracket, file, and another square bracket. So opening square brackets and closing square brackets. And so what is that really saying is that Excel is really talking to the header and footer area and passing information from the properties area, so the Excel properties, to the header and footer area and transferring the information automatically for us. So what does this mean? I don't need to manually go and type in the name of my document or this worksheet in my header area. It's actually capturing this from our title. If we look at our title here at the top, it says Contoso Inventory.xlsx. It's also putting it here for me. It's transferring the title across for me into the header area, right? So if we populate our Excel properties, which we're also going to look at today, then it will automatically pull across all that information into our header and footer if we need to put it inside. Things like your current date, your current time, that all gets captured in the properties area. So we can automatically pull it through and it will put it in the header and footer area for us. So just going through what do we have in this particular tab, we can go to this header drop down. It will show us some pre-existing text that you may want to put in, right? So do you want to put page numbers? Do you want to put the word confidential, the date, and the page number? Do you want to put the file path, right? So where does this document actually exist? Another nice one at the bottom here, prepared by, and the author, and the date, and the page number. At footer, we can do the very much of the same. And there's no real, I can say, methodology in how do we use the header and footer. So do I put the page number at the top, or do I put the page number at the bottom? That's really up to you. It also really depends on where you're working or whatever worksheet you're preparing. Maybe they'll prescribe to you how you need to be putting this header and footer. Usually in your school environments, your university environments, they'll tell you put the page number at the bottom left, bottom right-hand corner, bottom left, or top right, or top left, with specific information. So that's there's no real set method or standard, right? So it really depends on how you're setting up and for who you're setting it up, right? So inside this header and footer area, I can put page numbers, I can put the current date, the current time, I could put the sheet name if I have the sheet name available, or the particular picture. So what could be a picture? So it could be a logo of this particular company, right? So what we're going to try and do over here, we are going to add something inside the left header. So in the left header, I am going to be putting inside our sheet name, for example. All right, so I can click on this button, this command over here under the header and footer tab called sheet name, right? And it inserts some code for us. It just says and symbol and square brackets and tab and square brackets again, right? How do I know this actually worked? If I just click away outside of the header and footer area, you will see that all products shows up, and that is correct. All products is the name of the worksheet, right? So we don't really need to be typing out anything in here if we want something to happen automatically, because what happens if you rename the worksheet? You don't want to go back to the header and go rename the header to your new name. So that's why it's picking up the code very quickly. We're able to put in the sheet name, and it automatically knows that it must capture the sheet name regardless how many times it actually changes. Maybe on the right hand side, I can put the current date. Right, so then again we have some code showing up called and date, and it's going to capture today's date as per your computer clock. All right, so whatever your date is showing up in the computer clock, we can put that there. So we have these 3 equally sized blocks, right? And we put information inside there. Again, we don't want to put too much inside. In the exam, they'll ask you to put something in the header, something in the footer, and they'll just tell you to put it in a very specific place, maybe in the middle or the left or the right. And again, I can't see the header and footer tab right now. Why? I need to click into the header. I physically click in the header and footer tab immediately is available. If I click outside, it is gone. Right. So in the exam, if you are scrambling to find your header and footer, you can go to the insert tab, text group, go to header and footer, or you can go to your page layout view at the bottom right-hand corner. You can also access the view of page layout through the view tab. All right, so if you go to the view tab, you have the workbook views group, and you can switch between normal, page break preview, or even page layout view. Right, so page layout view is how will you see your document in a printed format. Right, so that's what we are seeing in our header area. Right, so let's say in our footer we want to insert page numbers. So I'm going to go to my right-hand side here. I already have a page number set up, but what if I wanted to change this? Right, so I have page number as it is. I have number of pages as well. Right, so add the number of pages to the header or footer. It will automatically update as you change the workbook. Right, so if I try and do that, it says and pages. Right, so that gives you the total number of pages. Right, so where is this useful actually? It's something I teach in all my courses with your page numbers. How can you actually utilize this number of pages correctly? It's something I'm going to be showing you right now. So let's say you wanted to create a footer which has the following. It will show up as, I think let me make a note of it over here. I want to see something like page 1 of 28. Right, so it must tell me exactly what page number I'm in out of the total number of pages I currently have in this worksheet. Right, so if I wanted to do that in my header and footer, I don't see anything like that over here. I have page number, I have number of pages, but I don't have a combination of these two. I could find something over here, right? Maybe I have something built in available for me, but in the exam you might be required to combine the two together, right? And use a combination of words together with your header and footer commands here to get a whole new element inside your header and footer. So I'm going to be erasing what I have inside over here. I have my mouse cursor flashing. So we start off with the word page. So P-A-G-E, so that is so important. We know that the word page is going to be repeating in every single printed page that I have here. Then we need to indicate the current page we're on. And I can do that by pushing the page number command. So page and then and page would mean the current page I'm on. After that, I put space of space number of pages. Right, so we can see the code there. It says page and page of and pages. And pages, the plural version, will tell Excel, please put the total number of pages in place of the placeholder and pages. And the code for and page is a placeholder for the current page I'm on. And then the words page and of will automatically be repeating on every single page. So let me check this out. If I click away, all right, let us see how is this going to work. There we go. So page 1 of 28. I'm currently on page 1 of 28. Let me scroll down, see if that changes. Yes, that's correct. Page 2 of 28. And then page 3 of 28, etc. Page 4. Right, so you could be asked to set it up in that specific way. You've also learned now how do you customize your page numbering, right? If you wanted to set it up in your own way, your own style, right? So you literally type it in the way you like, but when we want to get the page numbers in, we would utilize the commands we have in the header and footer elements over here. So I put the page number in, maybe in the middle over here. I want to put the file path, right? So the file path is where's the location of this. That looks quite long actually, where it's actually situated, right? So the deeper you put it into your computer, the longer your file name will be. right? But that's just an example. You may be asked to put any one of these, right? Any one of these particular elements inside your header and footer area. Right, so that concludes our header and footer topic. So what we can do now, we can just save this file. We can close this file. And we're going to now navigate to a different folder, still in the Manage Worksheets and Workbooks folder. We're opening up the folder Customize Options, Views, and Configure Content for Collaboration. We again see the file Contoso inventory, but yes, it's a different folder that we're working in. So we might see different or updated content in here. Right, so we are going to talk about specifically customizing views, customizing certain options, just having a look at our objectives, what is really going on inside this particular section, right? So customizing the quick access toolbar, displaying and modifying workbook content in different views, freezing the worksheet rows and columns, changing the window views, modifying basic workbook properties, and displaying any formulas. All right, so we start off by looking at our View tab. So everything about the View tab, what we see in this View tab is we really optimizing it for electronic viewing. So if you have this one screen, or you may be working with multiple screens, most of the time it could only just be one screen, but how could I really make this work out for me? So then it's easy for me to look at the workbook. I can work with multiple worksheets. I can work with multiple workbooks. So what options do I have over here? I have my zoom control. So I can zoom in and out to make sure I'm seeing my content correctly. Right now, the magnification is set to 100%. I can fit the selection inside. I can set a specific percentage here. I have my zoom controls at the bottom right-hand corner. But what I'm really interested in this is in this window group over here. Now, this window group will allow me to really navigate between multiple workbooks, multiple worksheets. So let's say, for example, I had opened up another exercise file. So let's see if I can open up something else. Let's say from a previous session, I open up Contoso products. All right, so this is just another worksheet that I want to work with. Let's say I want to navigate between the two worksheets. Right, I could very easily go and mouse over at the bottom on the taskbar and switch to something else. In the exam, you may be required to do that in a different way. You may be asked to find a way to navigate, or it could be part of what you have to do. Right, so if you have to navigate to another worksheet whilst something else is open, you may be required to make use of other commands that can do the very same thing as mousing over your taskbar and navigating to this. How do I navigate to something without mousing over on the taskbar? Well, you can use this command here called switch windows. The switch windows allows you to jump to other Excel workbooks inside your environment. So going to the View tab, I can switch to Contoso Inventory, or I can switch to Contoso Products. So it's a very quick way to jump from one place to another. You could also make use of the keyboard shortcuts Alt and Tab. Right, so with my keyboard displayed here, I have the Alt button here on the keyboard. I have the Tab key, right, and when you push those together, you have very specific views showing up. In the exam, let's try not to use Alt Tab, right, because Alt Tab is a general Windows shortcut. It allows you to jump between any windows inside your computer environment. We specifically want to see only for Excel, right? I could also, if I want to do some sort of comparison with two documents, I can switch on this view side-by-side option, right? And so if this particular Contoso product is exactly the same as this Contoso inventory, and I wanted to do a comparison, I could set up view side-by-side. I could even set up synchronous scrolling. The synchronous scrolling means that in this bottom workbook, if I start scrolling up and down, the workbook at the top also starts scrolling up and down, right? So then what does that allow me to do? If I want to be in the exact, in an exact location in the first workbook and in the second workbook at the same time, then synchronous scrolling will allow me to achieve that, right? And when you're done with synchronizing or synchronous scrolling and view side by side, we can click on view side by side again to go back to our original workbook, right? If I wanted to arrange my windows, I want to maybe arrange the windows. So arranging means how would you like to lay out the different workbooks next to each other? If I choose horizontal right now, I can see that I'm making use of the screen horizontally to lay out my different windows. I could also set it up as tiled, right? So side by side in this particular manner. If I want to go vertical, right? Very much similar to tiled, right? Cascading, right? So you put it in some sort of diagonal fashion, all right? So if you were laying out your workbooks on top of each other and you still wanted to see a bit of the file names, then you can very easily see that. Right, so split screen, also you can divide the window into different panes that each scrolls separately. If I tried split screen over here, I can scroll in a very specific section of my workbook. You can see that I'm able to go left and right on one side, left and right on the other side, scroll up and down. Where would this be useful? If you had your content split up into 4 quadrants and you wanted to navigate into various areas, then you would use a split screen for that, right? And if you want to hide the current window, when you click on that, it hides temporarily. And then if you want to unhide it, we click on any one of the unhide commands in this view tab for another workbook, right? And we can unhide the Contoso inventory workbook. This is similar to the hide and unhide worksheet command that we usually go through, right? So that's just some of the commands we have in the window group. And what we really want to know out of all of these, which is a very popular option that we use in the industry, and also it gets tested in the exam quite a lot, is this freeze panes. Right, so what does freeze panes allow us to do? The freeze panes, we face this current situation. What is the problem that freeze panes would solve for us? When I scroll down, I don't seem to see my header area at the top. So I'm scrolling down, I see it has disappeared. But let's say I scroll down and I scroll to the right and I want to refer to this specific amount of the unit cost in row 41. And I don't know what row I'm referring to here. What is the name of the product that I'm referring to that has a unit cost of 485.46? Right, so I want to be able to control the view of my worksheet, so then I'm able to optimize what I'm looking for. Right, so this is really best for electronic viewing. Right, you usually freeze panes when you are going to be working with your workbook or worksheet for long periods, right, and using your freeze panes option. Right, so how does freeze panes work? We can either freeze the top row, we could freeze the first column, right? But freeze top row would mean that row 1 would be considered the top row. And we can see that our top rows actually consist of many different items over here. So I want to really freeze this area at the top, including my headings, right? So everything from row 1 to row 8. I also want to freeze the first column, which has my product name. So the product name really identifies for me what I want to really refer to in the other columns. So say, for example, I want to see this class name or unit cost, unit price, but for what? What am I referring to? I want to refer to a very specific product name for that. So I need to find the intersection point, the point at which rows 1 to row 8, rows 1 to rows 8 will be displayed, as well as column A. Right, so both have to be displayed for this to work. So what does that mean? When I scroll right, I want to see column A frozen. I want it locked in place. It must not move when I scroll left and right. I also want to make sure that rows 1 to 8 are locked in place when I'm scrolling up and down. Right, so that's where the freeze panes option comes into view over here. Right, so freeze panes tells us here, keeps rows and columns visible while the rest of the worksheet scrolls based on your current selection. Right, so current selection would mean I need to specify my intersection point. And my best intersection point is, it has to be B9, sorry. Yeah, the B9 is the one that we need to be looking at. Why B9? Because everything above B9 must be frozen. Everything to the left of B9 must also be frozen, which is column A. So I need to place my mouse cursor on cell B9. I go to my View tab. I go to Freeze Panes. I click on Freeze Panes again. Right, what happens? You see a gray or some sort of gray line appearing, start going down, also going across. Right, and so now what happens is when you scroll left and right, you can see column A has now been frozen. If you scroll down, you can see that your headers from rows 1 to 8 have also been frozen. So I can now navigate to very specific areas here on the right hand side here. I can scroll down. I can go to a specific price here of 118.80, and I can see exactly which product I'm referring to. All right, so this works for electronic viewing. Please don't set this up for printing. Not going to work very well. And in fact, it will tell you to switch off freeze panes. So what we need to do, we need to go back to freeze panes. We go to unfreeze panes, right? And we're back to our normal view. Then we can continue working with this. Or if we are not comfortable with freeze panes, we're going to switch it off for any reason, we go back here and unfreeze it. Right, so it's a very common exam question to ask you to freeze panes. Right, so that is freeze panes and the workbook views group out of the way. We want to look at our workbook properties. Right, so I talked about the headers and footers earlier, that the headers and footers rely on the workbook properties. How do I navigate to my workbook properties? I go to my File tab. In my File tab, I go to the Info tab on the left-hand side in the left pane. And on the right-hand side, or in the right pane, I have this drop-down called Properties. And what are properties all about is, again, the metadata information about the workbook, information of what I'm really dealing with over here. So I have a couple of properties already listed here: the size, the title, tags is something I'll talk about in a moment. We have properties related to last modified, when this was created, when it was last printed, who the author is, when was, or by whom was it last modified. So these are all properties of the actual workbook. So I want to go to this button Properties and click on Advanced Properties, to see all of the properties available to me. So why should I be populating my properties? Well, the headers and footers is the one use case. The second use case is that it organizes your workbooks and worksheets and all of your files in your computer very well. Let me give you the scenario. Let's say you are trying to find a file on your computer. You know the file exists. You know that it's there. You're in a rush to open it because you need it for the next presentation or you need to work on it really urgently. but for some reason you have forgotten the file name, and you unfortunately rename the file, or forgot to rename the file rather, to something meaningful. So you kept it as book 1 or book 2 or book 3 or book 1 in brackets 1, book 1 brackets 2, etc. So you kept it a very arbitrary name, or you just really don't remember the name. You have no idea what the name is. So how do you find this file? So what we would usually do is frantically search the entire computer. You want to go and find your file. You waste so much time. Right? So how do I avoid such a situation? Well, the workbook properties, or properties of any file for that matter, it can be Word, PowerPoint, it can be a PDF. There is always a certain section of this application that allows you to modify its properties. So that could be the title. Right, so I could modify my title, I could modify subject, author, manager, company, category, keywords, or comments. Right, so we want to, as much as possible, this is something that we have to instill as a habit. We want to populate properties every time. Let's try and make time for ourselves with every worksheet and workbook we're working with, every Word document, every PowerPoint presentation that we're working with, every PDF that we have, that we want to populate its properties. I cannot emphasize this enough, that properties really help us. It really saves the day for us. It just organizes our content in our computer very well. And as soon as you start using online collaboration and online file management systems like SharePoint, SharePoint relies on document properties for it to function very much in the system. How will it function? Well, if you're trying to search for something on SharePoint and there aren't any properties available, it becomes very hard to search for something. Back to square one, that you forgot the name of the file. So we want to populate these as much as we can. It is really necessary. We must be doing this. Unfortunately, it is very much overlooked because it takes time. Right, it does take some time. You need to have the values for this. There's something like title, that would probably some sort of main document heading, or something that's something like a primary topic. Then the secondary topic or the subject, maybe we can call this sales information. So something like sales information. The author could be your name, manager could be that as well, for somebody else in your company, or it could be yourself, the company name. Right, keywords is very important. The keywords will allow you to use specific words as search terms when you're searching for this file on your computer. And in fact, these are all search terms. If you search for any one of these, if you forgot the name of the file, you can use the keywords. You can use any one of these files here to identify what the workbook is about. Now, what is a keyword? What can I use here as a keyword? I'm just going to go back here quickly. It can be any word inside here, something that stands out to you the most, anything that can really describe what this worksheet is about. So I can see product name, product description, maybe the column headers can give me an idea. Manufacturer is something I could use. Subcategory, category, maybe one example from here, Bluetooth, right? Multimedia keyboard. So these are all words that I can really populate inside the properties area, specifically the keywords. And how do I populate this? You type out a word, you put a comma, space, and then the next word, comma, space, next word, etc. So let's say Contoso, comma, space. We saw products, comma, space. I saw multimedia keyboard. Right, I saw Bluetooth as well. I saw manufacturer. The idea is you want to populate as many as you can. I know I taught one client. They were probably a role model for me for workbook properties and document properties. This particular client took out the time. It was actually something that all employees did. It was amazing. They took out some time at the end of each document when they finished working with it. They spent 10 to 15 minutes listing all of the properties for the document. And I've seen keywords as much as 200 keywords in a file, right? And that is amazing. If you can really describe your workbook in many ways as possible, it just makes it so much easier to find it afterwards, because it becomes like Google. What do we do when we use Google, when we use Bing, or when we use any other search engine? When we physically type out something in that website, we are hoping that we get our results in the first set of results in the when it goes on to page 1 or page 2, etc. We want to see that our results appear first. We're doing the same thing over here. We type in any keyword we like, and we want to ensure that the document we're looking for shows up first in the list, hopefully right at the top. And how does that work? Well, you have to populate these properties, unfortunately, right? I'm saying unfortunately because it takes time. A lot of people overlook this because they really don't want to be spending time. They hope that this happens automatically. Unfortunately, it cannot happen automatically all the time. So we need to take out some time to do this ourselves. So you populate as much as you can. We're just going to keep it a few examples for now. In the exam, you may be asked to put in keywords or tags. So this word tags over here is a synonym for keywords. Just remember that. They might not use the word keyword. They might use the word tag to confuse you. If you're not used to the word tag, this is what it actually means. In the comments area, you may be asked to put in additional text. So I'm just going to say for review. All right. All right. So that's your properties. That we should also be aware of. These properties get used in your header and footer, something for you to work with in organizing your computer. You want to be doing this every single time. Right, and lastly, to end off, what I'm going to talk about is we are going to just see our quick access toolbar. Right, so what is this quick access toolbar? It is this area at the top left-hand corner. Right, so the top left-hand corner, the area in which you have very frequently used commands. So frequently used commands such as your autosave or your save button, your undo, your redo, your print. Right, you can always add some more in this drop-down list over here. Right, so in the exam, you may be asked to put in something in the quick access toolbar. Something that may not exist in this list here. And what is the quick access toolbar really doing for me? It allows me to very quickly in one click get access to something. So print, preview, and print. Because what I would usually do, I'd go file, print, get here. 2 clicks. In this, it's 1 click. So it's really a 1-click button that I can create at the top left-hand corner. And what is a very common command we use on a regular basis is our file save as browse commands. That's actually quite a number of clicks. File, save as, browse. What are those 3 clicks? It allows me to save a brand new workbook in a very specific location. Right, I want to reach the save as window in just 1 click. Right, I want to reduce 3 clicks all the way down to 1 click and have the save as command listed for me here at the top left. So what would I go and do to do that? I can do this in a couple of ways. All right, so it's a good idea to know all the different ways. The first way is to go to this drop-down arrow at the top left-hand corner, and I can see that save as is not in the list here. I would go to this option called more commands. Right, so I get to this window here, Excel options. Right, so this is one way to get to this screen because this is where we are going to have to configure or customize the setting. One way is to go to the drop down, top left, more commands, and you get here. Another way is file, options, and then you go to quick access toolbar on the left hand side and you get to the very same location. You can also do the very same thing by right-clicking on anywhere in your ribbon. Right-click in this gray area, customize the ribbon, and quick access toolbar. All right, now what we need to do, we need to find the save as command inside this list here and bring it onto the right-hand side, which is into the quick access toolbar. So we might see it under popular commands, but we want to navigate to all commands to specifically see if it exists inside all commands. So this is every single button, every single setting that you can possibly click in Excel in one long list for you, and you can create a shortcut out of it in the quick access toolbar. So we are going to scroll down to the letter S. It is in alphabetical order. I don't suggest you use a scroll button on your mouse. Rather use this block here and just scroll up and down. Much quicker to go and do that. Right, so scroll down to the letter S. You find the Save As button. So Save As is available. It is a save icon with a little pen or a pencil. You click on Save As. You click on the Add button. Right, so it gets added to the quick access toolbar. We push OK. Right, and what do we see at the top left-hand corner? We see the Save As command available for us. So we click on Save As, and there we have it. We have the quick access toolbar allowing us to access File, Save As, Browse. 3 clicks, all in one click, ready to go. And so I've very quickly customized my quick access toolbar, something that I frequently use, and I've placed a shortcut for it in the top left-hand corner. Now, why can't I just use a keyboard shortcut? Well, you can use a keyboard shortcut. If you want to memorize the keyboard shortcut, it's F12. Right? There's so many keyboard shortcuts we have to memorize. So if you don't want to memorize the keyboard shortcut, then maybe have a clickable button available. Right, so Save As. And you can have as many things as you want, many commands in your quick access toolbar as you like. Something that you're using frequently, go to the More Commands option, go customize the quick access toolbar, and you will then be able to choose anything you like from the list, put it on the other side, and push OK, and you have it available to you at any time. Right, so that's where I conclude the lesson, and we will continue with this, finishing off this particular topic. Right, so all we have left to do for this particular domain is we are going to just go through our show and hide formulas option. We're going to talk about document inspection, saving our files in different formats, and then move on to the next section, manage data cells and ranges. Right. I thank you for attending today's session. It will be up on our YouTube site. Please remember when you go to the YouTube video to subscribe to receive future notifications. Have a good day and a good week, and I shall see you the next time. Thank you.